My top 7 lists you need to pull right now as a wholesaler. Guys, this is Rick Ginn, and today we are going to go over really my favorite lists to pull, the ones that I get the most action off, and the lists you should be pulling. But before I get into it, do me a favor. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button to continue to receive the absolute best information on wholesaling to date. Let's get into it. People always ask me, Rick, what are your best lists to pull? I'm going to go through my top 7. I'm going to try to do them in reverse order. Hopefully I can keep this straight. And guys, take notes, use these lists, they work. And if they're paid or they're free, take note on the best lists. Coming in at like number 7 is any type of foreclosure or pre-foreclosure. The pre-foreclosure list is really derived at your county courthouse. And these are people that have fallen behind or stopped making mortgage payments. And the bank is filing a notice or a list pendant to sue the owner to take possession back of the property and hold them accountable for any differences on monies owed on the mortgage. That's it. Nobody likes to be in this position. It's terrible, but to be honest with you, it's one of the most motivating factors for a home seller to get rid of a house. Think about it. If you're being sued and they're going to take your home away, if you can take some money or walk away with your credit and your dignity intact, it's great because these banks are brutal. They will serve you with police officers. They'll tag notices on your door. They'll chase people down at work. It's very, very intrusive and it stresses sellers out. And for that reason, this is a list you definitely want to pursue. Just help them solve their problem. Give them the speed they need, the dignity they need for the transaction. And a lot of these deals work out. Now, most of them do take time. But once a motivated seller in this pre-foreclosure or foreclosure situation makes it their decision, it usually moves pretty fast. What you want to avoid is dealing with these people at the very end when the property goes to auction. It's usually very, very late in the game at that point, and there's not a lot you can do unless you want to pull money out of your pocket and pay for an attorney. For that reason, if they're within 30 days of a sale date and there's little to no equity, just move on. You cannot help out those sellers. They have procrastinated to the point where there's just no money left into it, and they're just going to have to deal with the ramifications. So coming at number 7, the pre-foreclosures, foreclosures, they are highly motivated lists. Yes, they get a lot of activity, but just try to work with them and catch them as soon as the foreclosure notices come out. That's the sweet spot where I have the absolute most success. Coming in at number 6, your eviction list. Yes, there is a county courthouse list. This is when a landlord has a tenant, and the tenant is not paying the rent. And after a certain amount of time, depending on what state you are in, the landlord can file for an eviction. And then basically they put in a complaint. They prove they haven't paid it. They show they owe the property. And then that tenant gets served a notice saying, you've got 20 days to answer. You have to usually have to put the rent in question in escrow. And then you have to come with a valid excuse to the hearing. 80 to 90% of tenants that get sued for eviction do not show up at the hearing. And if they don't show up after the 20 days, the landlord can file for a summary judgment. And what that means is they'll put a judgment against the tenant for the amount owed on the rent. And they'll also issue a writ of possession. I'm not a lawyer on this, but they will issue a summons to evict the tenant. And then the judge signs off on a writ of possession. And basically the tenant gets 3 days to get out of there. And if they're not, they'll be escorted out with a sheriff's office there, right there. Guys, not fun. And the tenants usually leave these houses in really bad shape, and they're not happy with the landlord. And unfortunately, a lot of them leave the property in really rough shape. Why am I telling you this? Because it's a highly motivating factor. And when you have somebody moves out that hasn't paid your rent, that's trashed the house, and you're thinking about going through this over and over again, a lot of times this is when the landlord's going to sell. It's when they're at their weakest point and they just can't deal with this property anymore. So guys, get this list. The list is actually pretty easy. You don't get a lot of resistance on this list because it's not chased down by a lot of people, but it's powerful. They'll even post notices of these evictions in local publishings and newspapers and online stuff like that. So check it out. Really, it's probably the easiest list to get at the courthouse. So I would be definitely pursuing the eviction list because obviously there's great motivation there. Okay. Coming in at number 5, tax delinquencies. Now, this is a list that is going to be kept probably at your county level. And these are people that are behind on paying their property taxes. Now, a lot of people get this mixed up. Let me explain it to you, okay? All real estate has a property tax bill, at least in the United States that I'm aware of. Say you've got a $2,000 property tax bill. If you don't pay it by, usually the bills come out in November and they got to be paid by March. So the government can keep functioning is if you don't pay your tax bill, is they sell a certificate and people bid for these tax certificates. The bottom line is the taxes get paid and then basically there's a lien on the property and the person that paid for the tax certificate is owed that money back. So in this case, $2,000 plus whatever the interest rate it was bidded at. So property taxes always get paid. If property taxes, eventually, if the owner of the property does not pay taxes, the property can be foreclosed on and taken away from that owner. So these are a little bit similar to foreclosure, pre-foreclosure. But what happens when people stop paying taxes for 2 or 3 years, they can actually file. The people that own the certificate can file a foreclosure, hire a lawyer, and actually get the house foreclosed, which means it's going to go to auction. That pays back the original mortgage. That will pay back whatever the tax certificate holder's entitled to. And if there's any overage, it actually goes back to the homeowner. Tax delinquent, you'd be surprised how many people don't pay their taxes, so they use it as a financing. Think about it, guys. If people aren't paying their property taxes, they're going to have issues. And if you can't pay the property tax, you're probably not going to be able to keep up the rest of the bills in your house. And guys, keep in mind, property tax has gone up dramatically in the last few years. And so a lot of these bills are coming due at the end of the year. People are going to be overwhelmed. They're going to be flabbergasted. These things are expensive. So in communities where taxes were only like $1,000, $2,000, people are getting tax bills up to $10,000 that never planned for it. So when this happens, they can finance it for a year or two, but eventually if they don't pay that bill, the house will be foreclosed on. And for that reason, this is why these lists are really valuable to chase down. These people are harder to get in contact. I'll be brutally honest with you. Cold calling is probably your best way. They do not respond to any type of mail. And occasionally, if you do like a door knock campaign, if you can talk to someone, you'll get a little bit further. So guys, tax delinquencies, take advantage of them. Every county has them. I've yet to meet one without it, and it works really well. So coming in at number 4 is water shutoffs. And water shutoffs is basically exactly what it sounds like. It is a list of people in your city, sometimes county, but more city, that the utility company that runs the water shuts the water off on that property. Now, why would they keep a list like that? Because usually these people owe monies. They have a balance on their account. And when people, let's face it, if you're shutting off the water, you are definitely in dire straits. So remember, without water, there's a lot of it. You can't shower, you go to the bathroom, anything like that. It's just a real challenge. So if you can't pay the water bill, which is usually the cheapest part of owning a home, odds are you're not paying the mortgage, the tax bill, or anything else in the upkeep of the house. This makes for perfect motivation for a motivated seller to sell a property to a wholesaler like you and me. That's why these lists are great. Now, good news, bad news on this. You can only get the list if the utility company is a public company. So if it's a public company, you should have access to this list. You will get resistance on it. The easiest way to overcome its resistance is with constant persistence. So keep that in mind. You usually have to go in person to get it. You're not going to get it by email, and a phone call is going to be challenging. The water shutoff list is like gold. When you can find it, most people are looking to sell these houses. You can catch vacant houses. What do vacant houses do? They shut off the water because they don't want a water leak or anything like this. Man, guys, if you can get this list, it's going to point you towards motivated sellers. So some of you can't get this list. The ones that can, please jump on it. It is absolutely dynamite. Number 3, tired landlords. So tired landlords, this type of list is going to be derived through listrei.com. Get this list. It is dynamite. I can't tell you how many properties we've bought from people that have owned them like 20 years that just get tired of them. Sometimes it's just a few years, and sometimes it's 20 or 30 years. It doesn't matter. Tired landlords are golden in the wholesaling industry. Moving on to number 2, okay? One of my favorite ways to do is what we call reverse driving for dollars. And this technique is actually taking the first list I gave you, which is the foreclosures and pre-foreclosures, getting that list, and instead of cold calling them or mailing them or even like what we traditionally door knock, You're actually going to drive to these properties. So say you got 30 addresses off the foreclosure list. You determine a route you're going to take. And then once you get that route, find the most efficient way is you're going to take a little yellow note and you're going to stick it on the door. And you're going to say, listen, I got a quick question about the house. This is Rick, and put a phone number on there, like your Google Voice number, and then wait for them to call you. This is dynamite because you're much more efficient in your driving for dollars, meaning you go out and put 30 stickers on it. And for this reason, it makes you much more efficient. So worst case scenario, if they want to talk to you and you're sticking it on the door, if they want to yell at you and scream at you, you should go, listen, I'm just doing what my boss told me to do. I just put the stickers on the house. But if they want to talk to you in detail, like tell me more about your program, you can tell them because you obviously know it. Okay. So it gives you a fail safe if you get confronted and it's hostile. So like you're not put in a terrible position. But keep in mind, when they call you, when the call comes in, the people that want help are going to reach out to you. Not everybody, but for the most part, the ones that reach out say, listen, tell me what your program is, how you can help me out. Guys, reverse driving for dollars, it's golden because the people that want help that have stickers on the door, they typically call you back. And this is a great use of your time because the odds of someone being home and talking to you when you go visit them at the door, it's not high. So this reverse driving for dollar method makes it super efficient. You can use this with any list you have. You just got to organize your route, and that's how you want to do it. So check that out, guys. Reverse driving for dollars works really, really well. Now, coming in at number one, my favorite list of all time, they're called probates. And probates is nothing more than a legal process derived at your county level when somebody passes away to carry through their final wishes on financial transactions. So anytime they have a car titled in their name, a boat, an RV, and obviously bank accounts and like a deed to the house. Now remember, the person passed away cannot sign that deed over, so they have to go through the legal courts called probate, which is approved through a judge to make sure the deceased person's wishes are carried out. Now, obviously, there's obvious forms of motivation here, but think about it. When someone passes away, they typically don't take care of the house at the end. They're outdated. And when they pass away, the house is typically vacant. This is the perfect scenario for a wholesaler. And remember, all these houses typically need some sort of updating, massive rehab, a complete refurbishing. It is perfect for a wholesaler to put them under contract and easily sell your contract. And for this reason alone, probably my favorite technique for buying houses from motivated sellers. You've got to have a heart. You've got to be willing to help people out. Guys, all these lists, they all have the same goal. We want to create a win-win situation where we can buy the house, help the homeowner out, and everybody wins in the transactions. Probates is no exception. I only help people out that want my help out. And honestly, if you don't help them out, somebody else or some other realtor is going to take over your position. So you might as well go out there because you're probably the best at talking to these people. Guys, take these 7 lists and go implement them right now. I'm using them right now in my business and it works out phenomenally. And I want it to work out for you. So tell me, are you using these 7 lists in your business? Do you want to add more lists? If you want to check out more lists I have available, go over to freewholesaling.com. I share them all in there. It's a 100% free wholesaling course. It's the most popular one in the world. And I promise you, I'll share my 20 years experience on how to be a successful wholesaler. So guys, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.